I've got the synth lead sound ambient PWN, meaning pulse width modulation, lead 4 loaded in, and we're going to continue in the edit window, and we're going to look at the oscillator controls and the play controls. Now, each sound is capable of hosting up to 6 separate oscillators in each element. And right now, again, if we look here, we'll see this one element. But the number of oscillators used is hardwired into each instrument. We can't edit it. And in this instrument, or in this element in this instrument, it's using 2 oscillators. And you can see there's a slightly different fine-tuning control there. So we have control over each oscillator in the element in terms of the pitch, the fine-tuning, the panning, and the level. So here's what this sounds like. Now let's say I wanted to drop this first oscillator down an octave. I can click above it to enter numerically. I can drag it down, and I can just use my mouse wheel if I want. So I'm going to put it all the way down at minus 1200. There's 100 cents per semitone. And now this oscillator will be tuned down an octave. And I'll go to oscillator 2, and maybe I want to put that one up an octave. And I'm just going to command click to snap them both back. That's oscillator 2, and there's oscillator 1. And we can adjust the fine tuning to get a chorusing effect. There was already a little bit of that happening here, but let's exaggerate it a bit just so you can really hear. Put this one a bit more sharp. So a bit of an out of tune feel. So a few cents is nice to get that kind of thickening sound. And we can pan these. They'll again be more noticeable when we do it with the octave. But even with this, it gives us a nice stereo image. Now we have playback controls. We can set the element to be polyphonic or monophonic, meaning one note at a time. And we have mono legato mode, which is what you were hearing before. And that means when notes overlap, we can have a glide effect or a portamento effect based on these settings here. So you hear a little bit of a scoop and pitch transitioning between them. We can adjust the time and the curve. Now we have 2 modes. Absolute is the classic synth mode where the glide is the same regardless of the interval between the notes. So I'll exaggerate. You can hear what it's doing. That's much quicker. And we can have that pitch take a curve shape. So it's quicker there, and this curve will be slower at the beginning. But a little bit of curve and a little bit of glide time is nice for this kind of mono synth sound. We have polyphony. When we're in polyphonic mode, we can set the number of voices that we want this element to be able to use. And we have a velocity curve to adjust the feel of the keyboard. Now, when we're in relative mode, what this means is it changes the rate of the glide based on the distance between the notes. So rather than it being absolute, like for example, here's a close interval. Here's a farther interval. So it's relative based on the distance rather than absolute. Now I'm going to switch to another instrument. I've got drums over here, and I'm going to just solo this. We have a little groove programmed up. And here we have different elements pertaining to each of the different pieces in the kit. So for example, the kick drum. Now here, maybe I want to adjust some of the harmonics or formants on it. And I can tune the oscillator down for the kick. Or maybe I want to change the snare separately. I'm going to put the level up then, maybe pan it. And here's a little groove with that together with the synth sound, and we can play with some of these parameters. So that's an idea of what you can do with the basic oscillator controls for each element, as well as these playback parameters, and some simple amp envelope and pitch modifications can get you a long way in customizing your drums. I'll see you for more in the next video.